Hello everyone. If you're like me, you wanting to do a little self-filming of your bow hunts, having a little trouble with the camera arms, moving it around while you're in the stand, while the deer's coming. I've had it cost me a couple of good bucks trying to film my shot. I would move the thing and they'd see me and run off or whatever. So I've tried to get something to go in front of my bow. I was working on an iBoat, which worked really well. 1/4-inch nut with some washers to go through it, like so, which would screw into the bottom of the camera and screw it on the front of my bow where your stabilizer goes. And it worked really well, except I couldn't find an iBoat with the right threads. Usually the threads on your stabilizer are a 5/16 24 fine thread. And it's hard to find an iBoat like this with that thread on it. Or at least it was for me. Some of you may know where it's at. So if you do like I did, if you see this, I tried to get a 5/16 24 boat and weld on it so it would screw into my bow. This actually screwed in a little bit, and I put the camera on and it did really well, but I just didn't trust it. It wasn't in far enough. So I tried to weld the boat on, and you see it didn't work real well. It wasn't bad. It would have worked, but I kind of put some pressure on it to see if it would stay, and it broke. So I devised another plan. Plus, with my little boat here, I didn't have a wing nut or anything on the bottom of it. I had to use a pliers or a tool to screw that on the bottom. So came up with this little guy. This is actually a 5/16 24 thread boat. It's just a boat, and if you can see, it's the boat. That's the head of the boat, and this is just a flat washer. That is a flat washer, just like this, that I would take the flat washer and weld right on the end of the boat like that. So now this would screw into my bow where my stabilizer would go. I had to put a jam nut on it to lock it in place to keep it from spinning. Went to a hardware store, got this little plastic wing nut. It's 1/4-inch, same thread that goes in the bottom of most of your small palm cameras, such as this one, or the one I'm holding, which is a little different style, but it still has the same thread, and it's very small. It will go in the front of your bow without getting in the way of your hand or your arrows, which is good. So then I got some rubber washers, and I coated it with some Flex Seal to make it not so noisy and save me from having to use so many rubber washers. So I've got a nut there that's just a spacer because this wing nut was wanting to hit the boat. So that's actually was too long too. It wouldn't tighten up in the bottom of my camera. So I got a spacer that's twofold, misses the head of the boat and tightens up into the camera. I've got a little small rubber washer on the end. That's just to hold this in place, to keep that from falling off while I'm transporting it. Okay, one thing I've done a little different on this my camera bow mount is, if you see there, I had a rubber washer, and I've switched that out with a retaining washer, like a metal retaining washer instead of the rubber washer. Just because the rubber washer, if you left it on there very long, would go flat, and then it would come off, and then everything would fall apart, you know, and you'd lose all the pieces. Looks something like this, but it's a lot smaller. I think it's the M6 is what fit that 1/4-inch boat really well. The M6 one, if you can see it right there, fits on that. Lets this spin freely, screw into the camera, but holds it all together where it won't come loose, and that retaining washer will stay there, and it won't, I mean, it'll stay there. It won't come loose. That way everything stays there from now on. You don't have to worry about it. So, good bit of information there. Also, if you don't have a welder, where I put this boat on, they make some pretty nice epoxies now. I know there's a putty, like a two-part putty, that holds just almost as strong as this weld. You can putty those together if you don't have a welder, if you're interested in putting one of these together. Very simple, easy to do, and cheap. I did actually, since I've started this, have shot a buck with this camera mount on my bow, and it's a little hard to keep it on the deer as you're shooting. As soon as you shoot, of course, the vibration from the bow is going to jar everything. You're not really going to see the shot clear like you do if you've got a camera, so it's got its downfalls, but also you don't have to fool with all that stuff. You've got a small camera mounted on your bow, you can still get it. I'll try to add a little bit of that buck coming in that I shot, just kind of give you an idea what it looks like at the end of the video. I don't like to transport the camera on my bow, so when I put it in the bow, screw it in the bow, and I've got the jam nuts set to where when I tighten it, it's straight up and down. Then take my little palm camera, screw that right into the bottom, and it works, which I will do and then show you how it's set up. Be right back. Okay, and I'm back. Just take this little wing nut. Of course, you have to hold that. Got it very tight. That's screwed into my bow. Got my camera on. And as you can see, it works really well. Shake my bow, it's very stable, stays in there nice and tight. But you kind of got to remember to point your bow, and if you're really good, you can use your finger, zoom in, zoom out if you need to. Hit your record button from right there. It's recording. No, it's not recording. Very handy. And you don't have to have a camera arm. You don't have to worry about all that. It's right there ready to go. And it's very cheap. I think the local hardware store had the rubber washers, and this thing here was like $3, $4. The boat's like $1. Washers are like a couple of dollars for all the washers and nuts and bolts. Most of you have those laying around in your shop anyway. So it's very cheap and easy, inexpensive way to get a camera mounted on the front of your bow. Hope you enjoyed. Shot big basket rack. Awesome. About 10 yards from me. He's down.